So first of all, Brad, welcome to the Streetwise Tradesmen Mentor podcast. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on board.
I love that it's streetwise tradies. It's like, streetwise and profit centered. That's, it's like, how do we make money as a tradie? It's a great thing.
Yeah, it was, well, being a bit of a street boy myself, and it was sort of like, I grew up on the streets kind of thing, tradesman, coached by action coach, and learned about business 4 years ago, come off the tools, and now working on my business and not in my business. So I'm thinking outside the box, and at the moment there's no one else out there really doing what I'm doing in this space in podcasting for tradesmen.
Yeah.
And I had you at the top guest to get on board when I did the original plan.
Now we've got it. See,
I've got you. So I'm absolutely pumped to have you here today. So yeah.
So what are we going to teach? What are we going to teach today then? We've got to teach these tradies how to make more money.
Yeah, Brad, it's all about making money, and you make business seem and look so easy in all your books and your presentations. Is it really that easy?
No, I'd say I make it look simple. I don't think I make it look easy, because it's a lot of hard work. And, as a guy or a gal on the tools is dang hard work. It's just different hard work, working on your business, not in it, as you just put that language in. It's just different work. Yeah. And that's the difference between owners' work and employees' work. See, most tradies get stuck doing employees' work rather than owners' work, and they wonder why they're struggling to make money. Yeah. I mean, if you're doing, don't expect to make more money than the hourly rate of the job you're doing. So if you're doing a job where the hourly rate is X, and even though you own the business, it doesn't matter. You're still doing that job and you're doing the hourly rate. So, I think that people have got to learn the difference between leveraged work, which is owner's work, where you do the work once and it pays you back long term or even forever, and employees' work, where you do the work once and get paid once.
Yeah. Well, this is what we want. I think the hard thing is the transition of what advice would you give people that are working in their business to coming off of it? Like, is there a special formula to it? I mean, it's hard, isn't it, to scale it, have the money coming in, at what point, how do they do it?
But see, my business is no real difference, John, because, I'm a business coach. So in the beginning, guess who did all the business coaching? That was me. Exactly. It wasn't any different to a tradie. It's exactly the same. And over a period of years, you have to learn to systematize what you do to the point where you can hire someone to do that work. And that's just the step-by-step process of it. I wrote the book Instant Systems based around that exact subject, because as a tradesperson or as any business owner, and I don't think tradies need to consider themselves so different to a doctor or a lawyer or something, because it's the exact same. You're a solo business in the beginning. It's what you are. It's not like you're a restaurant where there's a chef, but there's also, you've got to have 10 other employees type thing. In this case, we sit there and we think, okay, how do I as a solo entrepreneur? And the first thing you got to do is actually decide to build a business, not a job. Yeah. And most tradies, unfortunately, they go into business to build themselves a job, not a business. And so their whole aim is to build something that works around them, and they trap themselves. And they say things to customers, listen, I'm the owner, I'm always here, call me anytime. And they make stupid mistakes like that. But then again, we all did that in the beginning because, hey, I didn't go and learn to be a business owner in school. I mean, I went to college and trained to be an accountant. Most tradies did their apprenticeship and learned to be, a plumber or an electrician or a locksmith or something like that. They didn't learn to be a business owner. And that's what you got to do. You got to learn to be a business owner. You can't just expect it to happen in a day. And the challenge is you can't take 4 years off and go to college and learn it. No. You still got to run it and learn it at the same time. And that's why, your first business is always going to be the hardest one, because you're learning and doing it at the same time. And, I think tradies are stuck in that roundabout or on the seesaw called find the work, do the work, find the work, do the work, find the work, do the work. And that's why for me, I used to work, early mornings, not doing the work in the business, but working on the business, actually developing systems, developing programs so that long term the business could work so I don't have to.
Yeah. Is that your model then with every business that you go in there and do that every day? Like, would you do that in the morning? You say in the morning, would you get up at 6 o'clock, work to 9, do the systems, then go out as a tradesman, do the work, come back?
I was a firm believer in the 5 to 9 philosophy. So from 5 till 9 a.m. and 5 till 9 p.m., I worked on the business. From 9 to 5, I worked in the business.
Yeah.
You know, and that was in the beginning. But I was lucky I was single when I was back starting the business. I didn't have to worry about kids or wives or anything like that. These days with 5 kids and a wife, there's very little chance I'm working that many hours.
Cool.
Well, I'm still working that many hours. It's just being a dad.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, at the beginning of your business, how did you get into business yourself? I know people ask you this. I want the listeners to understand.
Yeah. But I mean, I got into business myself because I was not a good employee. I'll be blunt about it. I was very good at being asked to move on to other jobs.
Okay.
But I also started my own businesses when I was very young. At 13, I wanted, you know, and 15 and so on, I started businesses. And I didn't really see it as a business at the time. I was just a kid and I thought, if I can sell this stuff or if I can do that or if I can, you know, entrepreneurial flair of some sort. And, you know, real business I didn't get into until I was in university. And that was where in uni it was like, well, I want to make extra money, but, you know, I got to spend all these hours studying to get through and how am I going to make extra money? And having a job, yeah, that made sense. But I started out and I was working mobile DJ, you know, going to parties and stuff. And, you know, there's all sorts of things you do. But when it came to Action Coach, the company that most people know me for, because most people don't know that, you know, I'm in commercial cleaning or that I'm in, you know, all these other things. Most people don't know that stuff, you know, property management and things. But Action Coach was founded purely by accident. People, when I was 20 or 21, people would ask me to come and speak about the success of my other business interests. Oh. And so I did. And people would come and say, can you help me? And I'm like, well, yeah, I just did. I just taught you stuff. And they're like, no. Can you consult with? And literally, I remember saying it to a bloke one day. I said, listen, just call me every week and I'll kind of coach you through it. Oh. And little did I know that 26, almost 26 years later, we sit here with offices we just opened in Russia, country number 88. So thousands of offices in now 88 countries. A lot of fun.
Did you have was that just, it was an accident then? What you were saying is it was an accident, but when did you know to scale it? Because that's what I wanted to know. How did you, how scary is that to go national and global? But how do we do it? How does someone do that? That's scary.
You know, it is, but it's not.
And exciting.
I think, you know, when I knew I was going to do that, actually it was a negative that got me to do it. Because I loved teaching and I still love teaching. But back in those days, I loved it that much that I was on the road 200 plus days a year giving seminars. And again, I was young and single, didn't matter.
Yeah.
And I found out that my business partner at the time liked my money more than I did, and found out that he'd taken off, done a run to Fiji with the money. And I was sitting there. I remember I was in Auckland, New Zealand. I found out all the money was gone, and I was sitting at this little hotel, and it was across the road from a rose garden. I remember there was a little shop just on the corner. It was a bottle shop, and so I went and bought a 6-pack of beer. Wandered through the rose garden and said, okay, I'm either going to do this properly or I'm just not going to do it. I'm either going to scale it and make it a real business, because all my other businesses I didn't work in. But this one, because I loved it so much, I trapped myself in the day-to-day. And so I sat on the floor of that hotel and wrote a vision of the company, World Abundance Through Business Re-Education, decided that we were going to scale, decided that everything was going to go big, and that's what I've done. So, yeah, it was a couple of years in before I really decided, okay, let's go national and global with this thing. Because at the time I was across Australia and New Zealand. I'd done some seminars in Boston and in Hong Kong and Singapore and stuff, but I hadn't really decided to scale. And that's when, you know, you have to sit down and work out, well, what model will suit scaling? And that's when I went to franchising and licensing, because I couldn't see scaling with employees worldwide. And so, yeah, I had to sit back and look at it and make some different decisions. And so, yeah, it is scary to go big, but it's even more scary to think I've got to sit and work by myself for the rest of my life. That's more scary.
Yeah, because you've leveraged every kind of business now. You're not involved, are you, other than Action Coach really day to day?
No, like my restaurant, I actually, we've just doubled its size. Like we've just rebuilt the whole thing and I haven't even seen it. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, we invested 5 million. I don't know. What's it look like? I haven't been there. Don't know.
Wow. So that's the sort of level that you're at now. So,
but yeah, that's the thing. That's what you got to do. And when you're just a one person business, it all seems too big and people sort of like, oh, it's all right for you. You know, you've written 17 books and done all that. And yeah, but hang on. I had to learn the same as everybody else got to learn. And that's the problem. Most people aren't willing to learn. And therefore they have the problem. The biggest, the hardest work in business is the learning work. It's not the doing work. Doing it's easy. You know, it's showing up for a 40, 50, 60 hours a week, doing 80 hours a week work. That's easy, showing up. But showing up and doing the right thing, that's hard work to learn all that stuff.
So that's where it's planning.
That's where these come in, reading books.
Yes, this is really exciting actually because it's funny, I've got nearly every one of your books and I've got a couple more that I didn't have in the post. I think I just had an alert actually that one is at the
well, there's now 17 of them. So yeah, this one's the latest one. This one is actually about exponential business. So how to actually create that business that scales and grows massive and does all that sort of stuff. So I think it's good timing, but also for all of your guys and gals watching and learning, I think it's important for them to also, because right now on this podcast, we're giving away my Profit Masters, which, I mean, it's crazy. For 13 years, I videotaped every single seminar and event. And from my $10,000 week-long courses to my 3-hour free seminars type thing, all of it's on video. And we put it into a business school. And for years, we've sold it for $1,000 or $997 because, you know, that changes in the marketing. And today we give it away to everyone on your thing because if they buy the book, they got to buy the book, which you'll give them the link.
Yeah.
But you know that level of knowledge base creates great business owners. You know, business ain't going to get easier. You got to get better at business. That's the simplest way I can put it.
So is this book about coaching people in business? Is it a summary of all the other books?
No, look, all of the other books go into a lot of details, but this one is more about exponential growth. So when you want to grow exponential or get that in your head, how to do it, that's the book. It goes through the 5 disciplines of exponential growth. And see, companies that are growing year on year on year on year, they don't grow and plateau and grow or have a dip and then go back and grow again type thing. Companies that are always growing live with 5 disciplines, and that's really what we look at in that book.
Yeah, so that's live. So when's it out? That's out now, isn't it?
Well, they can pre-order right now, so you'll give them the link to pre-order, and hey, presto, everyone will get the book. And if they pre-order this today, they get the $997 course as well.
Is there an expiry date on that then? Is that the end of the month?
Yeah, today, as soon as they see this video. Done. Right, okay. Watch it now. Bye.
Buy now, get on board. So what's the big plans for Action Coach? Are you expanding that even more in the, you know, I'm in the UK, in London, the outskirts of London.
Yeah, look, Action Coach is expanding quite dramatically still on a global scale. We're in 88 countries. We have plans to be in 121. The reason 121 is McDonald's is in 119. I want to beat it by at least one. And if they get another one, I've got an extra one up my sleeve. So we have the list of all of those countries we're working towards being in. But also, like you mentioned in the UK, I mean, our offices, or pretty much every office in the UK is adding coaches all the time because UK businesses need help. I mean, if you're a business owner and you think you don't need help, you're insane.
Absolutely.
You know, because that's like saying, okay, I'm the best golfer in the world, I don't need a coach, or I'm the best tennis player in the world, I don't need a coach anymore. Now, the day you think you don't need a coach is the day you actually really need one. I had someone the other day saying to one of my coaches, he said, well, you know, I got a lot on right now, so once I'm finished all this, then I'll get a coach. And the coach just looked at him and said, you're never going to finish it all, just so you're aware. And he looked him back at him, what do you mean? He said, well, unless you get a coach, you're not going to change your behavior, so you're never going to have a different way of looking at it. And it's like me. I mean, I get a personal trainer come to my house. If I didn't, I'd still work out, but because I do, I work out a ton. Do you know what I mean? It's like balancing those two things.
So it's important to have, do you think, have you always had a mentor? Did you have a mentor? So I was going to ask you that one.
You know, there's times when I didn't, because a mentor relationship is really tough because, you know, it's an informal relationship and the mentor will give you time when they can and not when they can't. But that's why one of the reasons I love what we do at Action Coach is because it's a formal, structured relationship between the coach and the coachee, and therefore the coach has a vested interest. They're paid to make sure you succeed. They're not paid to be your friend. They're not being nice to you. That you pay them to make sure you succeed. The same way you pay a personal trainer to make sure you get fit and drop the pounds type thing. And that's, you know, you got to remember though, buddy, and what people don't seem to understand about business is there is a system or a recipe for business success. The same as if I'm a plumber, I go about fixing something in the exact same way every time because that's the way you fix it. The same as for growing a business. There's a recipe for growing a business. And I first wrote that recipe down in my book, The Business Coach, when we had coached already 13,000 companies to success. And it was like, okay, after 13,000, maybe we should write down what we do now and share it with the world. And, you know, that book's been sold to thousands, I don't know, tens of thousands of times now. But you sit down and you start looking at it. If people don't, you know, the person who doesn't read is no smarter than the person who can't read. It's as simple as that. So I think business owners that get stuck in working harder every day and forget that you got to keep learning. And that's what having a coach or a mentor and reading and audio books and all that stuff is all about. But yeah, this one, it's my biggest book yet. It's 370 odd pages. But
what's called
Pulling Profits. So it came because pulling profits out of a hat. It's like an illusion type thing. It came because someone said to me when we were sitting down having lunch, and someone said to me, you know, it seems like it's just magic the way companies like IKEA and Apple and those, it's magic the way they make money. I said, it's not magic. It's a formula. Adding zeros isn't magic. You know, multiplying the business isn't magic. It's a formula.
Yeah.
And they looked at me like I was crazy. I said, okay, guess what? I've got to write another book. You know, so sat down with one of my top coaches, Monty Wyatt, and put the book together. And hey, presto, here we are. It took 2 years to build this book, though, because, you know, what comes naturally to me, where I just go, that's what I do, to sit down and work out how do I do that? You know, you've got to think back through. It's like, you know, a guy who's a good painter, he'll know that's exactly how you do it. If I want to paint that, that's exactly what you do, and he'll just do it through sheer habit. Whereas if he's got to teach someone to do it, he actually has to go back and think, oh, shoot, how do I actually do that? And that's the point of the book,
Yeah, well, we put a link in that for that as well, so all the listeners can download that. It's really interesting because when I got you guys on board, I remember I was so depressed, and I come off the tools, and I'm a ex-plumber, but coming to this retail plumbing merchants, bathroom showrooms, and I sat at a screen, I was just looking at it, and I hadn't got a clue, and I thought, I actually don't know what to do. I was bored, and I see an advert, and I thought, I need to go to this seminar, and I was hooked. Signed up straight away, and it was the best 6 months of my life because it gave me access to all these other tool books. So it was absolutely amazing.
You know, it's crazy, but that people try and go it alone.
Yeah,
you know, I think it's just crazy that people try and go it alone, and you know, that's why I invented Action Coach and why my coaches around the world do what they do. Is business owners, and I think what you just said there, being with other business owners also helps, and not necessarily within your industry. You know, sometimes sitting, if I'm a tradie and I'm sitting with a restaurant owner or someone that runs a clothing store, I can learn as much from them about being an owner as I can from someone else in my industry. In fact, sometimes more. Sometimes when you hang out with people in your own industry, you know, it ends up being a pain in the backside.
Yeah, absolutely.
Listen, so to finish up, I want to cover off on 3 things for traders, if that's okay.
Yep.
Number 1, you're in business to make profit, not sales or revenue or turnover. So raise your prices. The first thing literally every trader I work with is all so caring about their price that they think that price is the only thing that's going to make them money. If the only difference between you and the next bloke is price, you can't get loyal long-term customers. There's got to be something else different between you and the next bloke. Second thing to every tradie out there is this. Set a date you're going to retire your boots. All right? Set the date where the boots get retired and you can start wearing sneaks or something else to work. You know, stop you got to have the date where, and I don't care whether it's your boots or your paintbrushes or whatever the heck it is, but set a date where that's going to be retired and you're going to have other guys doing the work and you're going to be the manager and then eventually the owner of the business that does that. And the third thing is this, it's going to take time. Not because it takes a lot of time to do it, but because it's going to take time to learn. You know, you've got to get back to the reading and the understanding. And I know most of my mates that are tradies, last thing I can get them to do is read. But the moment I start getting them learning, they actually start making a lot more money. So I think that's really important.
There's some amazing knowledge bombs there then for our listeners. So business is not difficult. It's just getting a plan of action and getting an action coach.
Good plug there, buddy. Good plug. Thanks for that.
High five.
I finished the plug. There you go. Pulling profits out of it.
So pulling the profits out of the hat. We're going to put a link in the show notes. So where can people find you? Have you got YouTube? Are you on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn? Where can they find you?
I'm on everything: YouTube, Twitter, Insta, Facebook. You won't find me on Pinterest though. Not really a Pinterest kind of guy.
Okay. So everywhere else. So are you more active just on all of them? So Facebook.
Yeah, look, Facebook, Insta, LinkedIn. I mean, all of them I'm active on because as you have pointed out, I have a team of people that do a lot of work for me. So,
yeah,
you know, I record all the content. They make sure it goes everywhere.
Perfect. So I'll put all that and all the links to the book and all your handles, social media handles in the show notes. Is there anything else, Brad, that you'd like to add at all?
All I want to say is congrats to you. This is a great podcast. Everyone should sign up and subscribe and keep listening because there's a lot to learn. And when people are actually interested in teaching you and you're bringing your great knowledge base, keep learning from them.
Perfect. Okay, guys. So I'm going to end the podcast now. But I have a question for you. So, guys, thanks very much for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.